if I told you that just a few words can completely transform your English? These 50 words will change everything, so don't miss it. Here we go.
Hello, Liam. Today, we are talking about something very important for anyone learning English, right?
Hey, Emma. Yes. Today, we will show you a simple and powerful way to transform how you speak English in your daily life.
So, 50 powerful words can really change the way we speak every day? Or is that too good to be true?
It is absolutely true, because the real problem is not how many words you know, but the kind of words you choose when you speak.
That is interesting, actually, because I already know a lot of English, but when I speak, it still sounds basic and repetitive.
Exactly. That happens because you keep using the same simple words instead of stronger ones.
So I do not need to learn hundreds of new words. I just need to replace the ones I already use, right?
Sure. And today, you will learn powerful alternatives that you can start using immediately in real conversations.
So where should we start if we want fast results?
We start by replacing weak combinations like very plus an adjective with single, strong words. A quick upgrade is replacing very good with excellent or even outstanding. It sounds much stronger.
I did not know that. That already sounds much more confident and natural. So what about negative situations?
In that case, words like awful or terrible express the idea much more clearly than very bad.
That makes sense now. I can already feel that the meaning is stronger and clearer. And how about size?
When something is really big, massive feels more natural than just adding very before big.
That sounds more like how native speakers talk. Right. So what about small things?
For small things, tiny works perfectly because it's short and impactful.
Huh, that is so simple, but it really makes a difference. So how do I describe speed?
When something is very fast, rapid gives a more precise and confident tone.
That is interesting, actually. I really like how that sounds. And what about something slow?
For that, sluggish paints a clearer picture and makes your English sound more natural.
That is interesting, actually. I can already notice that my English feels less basic.
Exactly. The idea is the same, but the impact is much stronger and more natural.
So these small changes can really improve how people see my English?
Yes, because people do not measure your English by quantity, but by quality.
That makes sense now. So what should we improve next?
Let us upgrade how you express your opinions in everyday conversations.
What can I say instead of always using I think in every sentence?
I believe sounds more confident, and I would say feels more natural.
I did not know that. That already feels more fluent and less repetitive.
Exactly. And there are also better ways to express what you want.
So, what would be better options that I can start using today?
I would love sounds more engaging, and I'm looking for feels more natural.
That is interesting, actually. That sounds more like real conversation.
Sure. And even simple phrases like I like it can be improved.
Huh, I say that all the time. So, what should I use instead?
I'm into it or I really enjoy it. They sound more expressive and natural.
That makes sense now. That really changes how I sound.
Exactly. And even basic actions can sound more dynamic.
Really? What can I say that sounds more confident?
Let's get started or let's do this. They sound more intentional and energetic.
I did not know that. That gives more personality to the sentence.
Yeah, and these small upgrades create a big perception of fluency.
So, how can I sound more confident when I speak English naturally?
Focus on replacing uncertain words with more confident ones when it fits.
Can you give me an example that I can use in real life?
Definitely sounds much stronger than maybe when you're sure.
Wow, that really changes the tone of the sentence. So, this is what makes someone sound more confident?
Definitely. And using likely instead of probably already makes your English sound more natural and professional.
Interesting. I hear that a lot in conversations. So, native speakers really think like this?
Yeah. Obvious is better than very clear. It's shorter and stronger.
That sounds more direct, right? So, people understand you faster?
Sure. And essential carries much more weight than just saying very important.
Wow, that is a strong word. And it really changes the feeling.
Exactly. And when you want more emotion, thrilled expresses much more than just happy.
That sounds much more expressive. And it feels more real.
Yeah. And disappointed feels more natural and specific than simply saying sad.
Interesting. That sounds more real and specific. So, this is why basic English feels limited?
Yes. And this is the point where most learners start noticing a real difference in their speech.
Wow, I can actually feel that already. So, what comes next now?
Now, let us speed things up a bit and go through more practical words you can use every day.
Are we going to see more examples that I can use every day? Like in real situations?
Yes. For example, assist sounds more polished than help, especially in professional environments.
Wow, that already sounds more professional. So, this is how people sound more fluent at work?
Exactly. And purchase gives a more professional tone compared to simply saying buy.
Interesting. I have heard that before at work, but I never used it myself.
Right. And require sounds more formal and precise than just saying need.
That sounds useful for emails and meetings. So, what about starting something?
Begin feels slightly more polished and intentional than just using start.
Wow, that is easy to use, and it already sounds better. And what about finishing something?
In that case, choosing between finish and complete helps you sound more natural depending on the context.
I can use that in many situations. So, this is more about variation, right?
Exactly. And using demonstrate instead of show gives your English a more professional and clear tone.
Interesting. That sounds more advanced.
And for communication, using inform instead of tell makes your English sound more formal and structured.
Wow, that is very helpful.
Exactly. And instead of saying get, which is very common, you can say receive in many cases.
Ha! I use get all the time without thinking.
Sure. And now you have stronger options that make your English sound more intentional.
I can already feel my English improving just with these changes.
You see how your speech becomes clearer, stronger, and more confident?
Really? It feels more natural and less forced now.
Definitely. And we are just getting started with these transformations.
So there are still more powerful words coming next?
Yes. And the next group will make you sound even more natural and fluent in real conversations.
So what comes next if I want to sound even more natural in real conversations?
Now, we continue replacing very common verbs with more precise and expressive alternatives.
Can you show me examples that I can use in my daily routine?
For example, create sounds more intentional and clear than make.
Interesting. That sounds more intentional and clear. And what about problems? What should I say then?
In that case, resolve works better than fix, especially when you want to sound more professional.
Wow, that already sounds more professional. And what can I use in more serious situations?
Attempt sounds more formal and confident than try.
That is useful. But what is a better option for use?
Utilize sounds more professional and advanced.
Ha! That sounds advanced but powerful. So, what should I say when I need to check something?
In that case, verify feels more precise and professional, which is exactly what you want in real situations.
Interesting. I can use that at work. And what about when I talk about leaving a place?
If you want a more formal tone, depart sounds more polished and intentional.
Wow, that feels more polished. So, how can I sound more natural when I say find?
Discover adds more engagement and makes your speech feel more expressive. It is something native speakers do naturally.
I like that one a lot. And what about when I want to say think about something?
Consider works really well here because it sounds smoother and more natural in conversation.
That sounds more professional, right? And how do I replace talk about?
Discuss is a simple upgrade, but it makes a big difference in how professional you sound.
Wow, that is simple and powerful. And what about deal with?
Handle feels cleaner and more direct, which makes your English sound more confident.
Interesting. That feels easier to say. So, what about when I say go back?
Return is more direct and natural, and it is used all the time in real conversations.
That sounds more natural. And how do I improve bring back?
Restore sounds stronger and more precise, especially when you want to emphasize change.
Wow, that is a powerful word. So, what about when I say set up something?
Establish gives a more formal and structured feeling. It works really well in professional contexts.
Interesting. I hear that in business conversations. So, how do I upgrade build?
Develop sounds more professional and intentional, and it helps your English stand out.
That is very useful for work. And what can I use instead of keep in a more professional way?
In that case, maintain works really well because it sounds more precise and polished.
Wow, that sounds more advanced. And what about when I want to say stop?
If you want a stronger tone, cease fits better, especially in formal situations.
Wow, that really feels like a big upgrade. And what works better than improve?
Enhance is a great choice here because it sounds more professional and refined.
And what about answering someone?
Respond sounds more professional, and it works really well in both speaking and writing.
That sounds useful for emails. And what about asking for something politely?
A more polite and formal choice there is request.
Interesting. That sounds more respectful. And what about giving something to someone?
In more formal contexts, provide feels more natural and appropriate.
Wow, that is a strong word. And what about when I need help at work?
A more professional way to express that is require assistance.
That is perfect for work situations. And how do I talk about making something better?
Depending on the tone, enhance adds a more professional touch than just improve.
I can really see a pattern now. So, is repetition the key to learning this?
Definitely, because repeating these patterns helps your brain use them naturally.
I already feel more confident thinking like this. So, how do I avoid overthinking when I speak?
The key is simple. Use these words in short, daily sentences until they feel automatic.
Can you give me some real examples that sound natural?
Sure. I believe it is excellent sounds much stronger than I think it is good.
Wow, that already sounds better. And what about starting something?
I would love to begin feels more natural and less direct than I want to start.
Interesting. That flows better. And what about taking action?
Let us get started brings more energy than simply saying, let us go.
That sounds more confident. And how would I ask for help professionally?
I require assistance sounds much more polished in that context.
That really changes the tone. And what about checking something?
Can you verify this? Feels clearer and more precise than check.
Wow, that sounds much better. And what about solving a problem?
We need to resolve this. Sounds more professional than fix.
Interesting. That feels more serious. And how do I express preference naturally?
I'm really into this idea. Feels more natural than I like this idea.
Huh, that sounds more real. And how do I emphasize importance?
This is essential. Carries more weight than very important.
Wow, that is powerful. And what about clarity?
This is obvious, sounds more direct and confident.
I can really feel the difference now. So, is this what fluent English sounds like?
Exactly. Fluency comes from choosing better words, not from speaking more.
So, the goal is not to speak more, but to speak better, right?
Yeah, and that shift changes everything in how people perceive your English.
That makes sense. Practice is everything, right?
Sure. Consistency builds confidence and natural fluency.
So, this is not about perfection, it is about progress.
Exactly. And every small upgrade makes you sound more natural.
Wow, I feel much more motivated now. So, if I keep practicing, I will improve faster?
Definitely, because your brain learns through repetition and real use.
Interesting. That makes learning feel easier. So, what is the main idea of today?
Replace simple words with powerful ones, and your English will transform.
That is clear and easy to follow. So, what is your final message?
If you still have doubts, watch this video again, because these 50 words will change your English.
That is very motivating. Thank you so much. And what should they do next?
Watch the next video on your screen, because with just 5 minutes a day, you can truly transform your English.
See you there.
Bye.